From Betrayal to Justice. How My Husband Schemed to Sell Our Home Unraveled. The day started like any other. I got up early, like I had done every morning, ready to work my shift at the hospital. It was a demanding job, but I loved it. After all, the long hours and sacrifices I'd made were part of building a future for my husband, Alex, and me. Alex had been struggling to keep a job since the pandemic, but I believed that things would turn around for him eventually. Little did I know, he had a different plan entirely. After a grueling 12-hour shift, I came home to find our house turned upside down. My clothes were shoved into boxes, personal belongings tossed haphazardly, and my furniture had disappeared. Standing there in shock, I found Alex lounging on the couch, scrolling through his phone with a look of complete indifference. The sight was surreal. "Alex?" I stammered, barely able to process what was happening. "What's going on?" He looked up, his expression as cool as ever. "I've sold the house, Olivia. My parents bought it. It was all finalized today." At that moment, I felt like the ground had disappeared from beneath my feet. I had poured everything I had into this home, our home. All those extra shifts, the late nights, every dollar saved. It felt like I was collapsing in on myself, trying to make sense of what he'd just told me. "You sold the house?" I asked, barely able to believe it. "Yeah, Olivia, it was in my name, remember? I didn't need your permission. And frankly," he continued with a smug grin, "this arrangement is going to work out much better for everyone." I couldn't help but feel numb. His words replayed over and over in my mind, each one cutting deeper than the last. "And what about us? You made this decision without even discussing it with me. What am I supposed to do?" A faint smile crossed his face. "That's just it, Liv. I want a divorce. I've been meaning to tell you, but you're always working, always so busy. You've barely been here anyway," he sneered, crossing his arms. "I thought you'd appreciate me making it easy for you." It was as though he'd delivered a slap to my face. Not only had he secretly sold the house to his wealthy parents, but he was kicking me out, just like that. I stood there, wondering how I had never seen this side of him before. He was jobless, entirely dependent on me for the last 2 years, and this was his thanks? Fighting the overwhelming urge to cry, I forced myself to ask one last question. "Where am I supposed to go, Alex?" "That's not my concern anymore," he replied with a shrug. "I'll be staying here with my parents. Well, you'll figure it out." With that, I left the house, feeling utterly defeated. I had nowhere to go, no family nearby, and not enough savings to secure a new place immediately. It felt like I had been stripped of everything I'd worked for, and the betrayal from someone I once loved left me hollow. Thankfully, a close friend, Sarah, opened her doors to me. She listened as I poured my heart out and helped me devise a plan for the future. Days turned into weeks as I stayed with Sarah, trying to figure out how to pick up the pieces of my life. One evening, while venting my frustration over dinner, Sarah's face lit up with an idea. "Olivia," she said, her eyes twinkling, "if the house was a marital asset, I'm pretty sure you're entitled to something from its sale. There might be a way to fight back." Those words felt like a lifeline, a glimmer of hope in the dark. I had never thought of taking legal action, but as Sarah reminded me, I was entitled to my share of what we'd built together. I reached out to a lawyer who specialized in property disputes and explained the situation. As it turned out, the sale of our home was far from simple. Though Alex had put the house in his name, my lawyer argued that, as his wife, I was entitled to half of the assets gained during our marriage, including the house I'd worked so hard for. The case was solid, and soon legal proceedings were underway. When Alex was served with the court papers, his smugness turned to panic. He and his parents had assumed I'd walk away quietly, leaving them to their scheme. But now, they were facing the legal consequences of their actions. During the hearing, my lawyer exposed the underhanded way Alex had transferred the title to his parents. The judge was unimpressed with their antics and made it clear that I had rights as his spouse. My lawyer argued that Alex had used my income and efforts to sustain the household while he'd been unemployed, and it was only fair that I should receive compensation. To everyone's surprise, the judge ruled in my favor, ordering Alex to pay me a substantial portion of the home's sale price. Additionally, his parents were fined for attempting to manipulate the title transfer without consulting me. What followed was a family meltdown. Alex's parents, furious at the scandal and costs they now faced, cut him off completely. They disowned him, and with the hefty legal bills piling up, Alex was left with nothing but debt. The life he'd tried to build by throwing me out crumbled faster than he could have imagined. Once the dust settled, I used the money from the settlement to secure a beautiful new apartment and began rebuilding my life. My hard work was finally benefiting me, free from a husband who had only dragged me down. Friends, family, and my community rallied around me, and for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. As for Alex, I heard he struggled for quite some time. He bounced between odd jobs, barely scraping by. I occasionally caught wind of how bitter he'd become, blaming everyone but himself for his downfall. But I found that I didn't care. I had my new life, my independence, and the knowledge that, in the end, justice had been served. When Olivia's husband sells their home without her knowledge, kicking her out and demanding a divorce, she's left devastated and homeless. As she rebuilds her life from scratch, she uncovers a legal twist that exposes his betrayal. Determined to seek justice, Olivia takes him and his scheming parents to court, where they quickly realize their plans won't go unpunished. This is a story of resilience, unexpected turns, and how one woman's strength turns the tables on those who tried to break her.